9:11, Big 550, KTRS. The board meeting is in session, -1. Got a late scratch. Tony called in, couldn't do it. We had a fill-in, late scratch on the fill-in, so that just means more time for the two other guests, which could be good or bad, depending on where you sit in this room.
People whose opinions really matter.
Right. They'll be happy.
That is currently still House Majority Leader. However, Speaker of the House in waiting, John Deal. Welcome back, Big 550, KTRS.
Hey, good morning. Thanks, McGraw.
Also, Jane Duker, former Chief of Staff to Governor Holden. Good morning, Jane Duker.
Good morning, McGraw.
We'll start with you, Jane Duker, and that is this. Can you explain to me that this Edward Muth kills himself after embezzling, allegedly, $3.5 million from the St. Louis County Health Department? The FBI comes in and does an investigation. They give that report to the county executive. The FBI says, please don't tell anybody about this?
It's very goofy. First of all, the initial problem started when St. Louis County government, Gary Earls, tipped off the embezzler that they were on to him. They didn't tell the police. They didn't do anything.
Gary Earls tells us Edward Muth, hey,
I want to talk to you, you know.
Right.
So the guy figures it out and says, okay, I've been found out, and I've been stealing for 5 or 6 years. And it wasn't just the embezzling into the company. He also used the county credit card for years and years and years. So anyway, he kills himself.
Goes to his $1.4 million house in Webster
Yes.
Groves and kills himself.
Very horrible. But anyway, so Chief Fitch, before he retired, asked the FBI to come in and do a forensic audit, which means please look at this guy's bank records and find out where the money went, find out if there's more people involved, that sort of thing. So he took part of the investigation of this criminal matter and sent it over to the FBI. Okay, not all of it, because the county has its own investigation that they're doing overall on this crime.
Mm-hmm.
So the FBI does a forensic audit, and they send the report to the county police. That's the one distinction I wanted to make from your description. It was sent to law enforcement. This was referred by law enforcement. Okay. And they sent the report to law enforcement.
So the police chief asked the FBI gives it back to the police.
Yes.
Okay.
And now it's unclear. Gary Earls has not told people how he actually got a hold of the report, because there are exceptions.
Because he's not part of the police.
No, he's not law enforcement. County government is not law enforcement. Law enforcement are entitled to do things with records and hold investigative records under the law, and they're in a much different position than regular politicos. So come to find out that they got this report in January. And so Gary Earls takes that report, and we don't know how he got it, whether he got it from the police, whether he got it from the county counselor's office, but he takes that report, goes to the director of operations, goes to the, people in the Department of Health. It's rambling all around county government. And, and now they are claiming, the FBI doesn't want us to do anything with this. Well, the FBI does not want to get into the squabble over St. Louis County's investigation. That's completely understandable.
Or the county executive's race. And that's not their deal. And so now it's a situation where we have a non-law enforcement agency claiming closed records involving a law enforcement agency. And that's what's ridiculous here. Once they sent it over to county government and had county government, who knows what they've been doing since January? I mean, I'm concerned that they, how much track covering are they doing since January on the procedures that led to this problem in the first place?
FBI, so just for the layman out there, the FBI says, look, we don't want to be involved in the election, and this report, regardless of what it says, it might sway somebody's opinion. We don't want to be in charge of somehow having a role in this election.
We had one limited role, which is to do a forensic audit. We did that. We determined that he acted alone based on the investigation we did. They didn't comment on a larger investigation, anything else. The chief of police indicated that he did not want to release the report because he's not done with his investigation.
So the only people outside of the police who've seen this is Gary Earls.
Well, and whoever in county government
I don't
that
think
he
the
showed.
FBI actually ever publicly said that he was the only one involved.
They did. They said their part
Okay.
was closed, and the U.S. Attorney's Office did do a letter and said, our part is closed. But that's all they spoke to was their work. They've never, and they don't want to, that's
and
not
Gary
their job.
Earls is who?
Gary Earls is the chief executive officer he's the second in command under Charlie Dooley.
And so he has no obligation to release this.
Oh, I disagree. Everyone thinks he does have an obligation, and in fact, the Post-Dispatch editorialized today on it, and they are not a law enforcement agency. They are not entitled to hold those records.
So even though he obtained it through some, we're not saying illegal means.
Don't know, but once that happened, it was no longer right.
he doesn't get the benefit of the closed
the
exception.
seal has been broken, and so
Yep.
now everybody should see it.
Absolutely. And, at this point, and the concern is genuine, is, they've not been forthcoming about this whole thing. The idea that you would tip off an embezzler before you tell the police that there's been a crime committed is also suspicious. The idea that they want to hold this record, but yet internally do all kinds of stuff with this report without letting the county council know, without letting the county prosecutor hasn't even seen the report, which is outrageous. So, that's the problem here. So release the report. And they don't want to release the report before the election, but they need to go ahead and release it.
John Deal, what are your thoughts?
I'm watching a anti-Stenger
ad on TV
here as we talk. So I guess this is all. Oh, I guess he's Mitt Romney now. So okay.
I don't know why that's an anti. But I guess
I don't know. I kind
message
of
is
like
unclear.
that. Well, it strikes me that if you're going to use a report as a shield,
Exactly.
that the contents of the report ought to be made public. And my understanding is from the FBI and their general process, will come in and we'll do a confidential audit because they want people to be able to speak freely. So that audit is typically given then to the agency that requests it. But then when that agency, in this case St. Louis County, starts talking about it,
right,
and showing it to other people and doing this and this and this, it's probably moved beyond the assessment which was performed by the feds, and it's being used for a political shield under the cover of, hey, trust me, there's nothing here, we got a clearance. Well, show us the report. Well, we can't do that. It's confidential.
But we get to use it, and we get to go, and it gets
well,
to ramble
we get to
around
talk to you about
government.
what the conclusions are,
right?
Of it, but we can't see what's behind it. And I think the FBI's position on it is probably understandable that they're not. And typically, my experience has shown that they're pretty reluctant to get involved in situations where there's a contested election. Generally speaking, it happens sometimes. I think we saw it up in Alaska where they went after Ted Stevens.
Right.
And then afterwards said, hey, by the way, never mind. we're
forget about what we said.
Yeah, forget about
Let me ask you this question, John Deal, and I don't want to put you in a weird spot, but let's assume, for argument's sake, that I live in the county and I'm a good, dyed-in-the-wool conservative Republican. And this primary is coming up August 5th. Do I want to vote for Charlie Dooley because Charlie Dooley gives the Republican in the general a better chance to win than Steve Stanger?
Well, I don't know that you can necessarily draw that assessment on who's the stronger general election candidate at
or
this
the weaker
point.
one, right?
I mean, there's also a primary on the Republican side
right.
also. So I think most Republicans are going to be weighing in on
their party's
on who that nominee is going to be. That's not to say there won't be some effort by some to try to sway it one way or the other. But I think you could make the argument each way that a Republican's better off running against Stanger, and I think you can make an argument that a Republican's better off running against Dooley. I think the bottom line is they're both going to bash each other's brains out with $3 million worth of ads over the next 30 days.
Right.
And how are they going to reload? I think the Republican, particularly if it's Rick Stream, comes out of it pretty clean.
Right.
And can start building on that same narrative that they're doing against each other.
I mean, I think, frankly, though, St. Louis County is a Democratic county. It's been blue for a while. I think this primary is likely to decide who county executive is, and if you don't jump in and vote in the primary.
So you're saying the Republican has no chance in this, Jane?
Very little. Very little.
I would have to disagree with that.
Well, of course you would. But,
well, sure, but I've also seen some polling in this, and I know both sides have their polling. But when you take a look at the spread between the right direction, wrong direction, compared to where it was 4 years ago,
right,
and whether or not the county needs a change in leadership, there's almost a 40-point swing,
right,
from the favorable to
but
the
Bill
unfavorable.
There is no, but hold on, he's right though. There is no question that after 30 days from now, after Dooley and Stanger beat each other up, they're going to be so bloodied and so battered and so defined negatively that somebody going to the poll says both of them are terrible. I'm going to vote for the other guy.
And I think part and parcel of that, if the attitude is that a change is needed, I don't think either Dooley or Stanger is going to come out of this primary cycle saying, hey, that's the positive change that we need to try to get this done.
Jane, last thoughts.
Yeah, no, I think that's wrong. I think that I think the Democratic makeup of this county is pretty solid. Bill Corrigan was a good candidate last time against Charlie Dooley, really was, and still could not pull it off. And I think that Republicans would be wise to jump in the primary because that's likely to decide it.
I want on the record, I like Bill Corrigan. He was a nice man.
You know what? He really was. And
he still is, I guess.
Right. But, I mean, I think if he couldn't get that done, a moderate Republican, a well-known name, lawyer, I mean, if that Republican can't get it done, that's
okay.
That's
I'm
one
going
of
to
the
ask for
reasons
the
why we have a
final word.
primary.
Yes, John Deal, final word.
But,
yield for a comment.
but here's the key difference between now and 4 years ago is that Dooley had essentially a 20-plus favorable over unfavorable rating, and the right direction, wrong direction of the county was almost 2-1 in the right direction column. Those numbers have now flipped, and if Bill Corrigan ran that race today against Charlie Dooley, he would win hands down.
That's John Deal. Jane Duker, 2 is better than the price of 3 today. The board meeting continues on the Big 550.